In this movie, we continue to look at applying our margins to our project. Now, the first margin that we will want to affect is our body margin, because if you notice here, there's this gap right here between the edge of the browser window at the left-hand side, the top, the right-hand side, and at the bottom. So let's go ahead and get rid of that by jumping into our CSS and jumping up here to the body. Let's add in margin 0. So margin 0, I save and I refresh, and it removes that margin on our sides. Now notice how it does not remove the space here between our news on either the left hand or the right hand side. And the same thing for our latest tutorials, and that's because those end up having its own set of rules that are a little bit more specific than what's going on with the body. Now let's go ahead and jump back into our CSS, and we're going to set up some rules that will come into play a little bit later on whenever we're working with our images. Now this is going to affect the header, and right now we have our top of the header flush with the top of the browser window. However, we're going to go ahead and set up our margin top here to make enough space for our image to exist in. So whenever I put in this margin top, it's going to shift everything down in the browser. So I'll go ahead and save and refresh, and as you can see, it moves the entire header down. So the next thing I want to do here is I want to adjust the margin for my site mission. So I'll come down to my site mission, and I'm going to set up this rule for the margin top. And all I did there was I copied and pasted the previous rule. And I want to set a negative 110 pixel margin to the top. So I'll save that, and I'll refresh, and I'll end up seeing that that negative margin moves my site mission up, but if you notice, my H2 kind of disappears. And you can still make it out here, but it's kind of difficult. So I am going to want to set this. However, I am going to have to wait a good bit, because by setting the margin to that negative value, it's moving everything. So after we have this site mission in the HTML flow, we end up having the end of this division. So by doing a negative margin value, it's moving everything below our site mission up in our display. So thus, it's removing our kindling for open source creativity. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back in here, and for the time being, I'm just going to go ahead and comment this out because it's kind of messing with our design. So I'll go ahead and save that. And whenever I refresh, we get our kindling for open source creativity back. In the end, I'm going to end up having this site mission floating over here to the right-hand side. But for now, that looks good. So let's go ahead and jump back into the CSS and move on down the page. And let's add in some margins here to our related. So I'm going to go ahead and put in something for the margin top and margin left. So the margin top for our related will be 10 px, and for the left it will be 10 px as well. So I just need to modify what I pasted in. There we go. And then my sidebar is going to be very similar to what I did with the related here, but it's going to be slightly different. So I'm just going to copy and paste that in. And instead of affecting the left, I will affect the right, but it still will have 10 pixels of space for both the top and the right. Then next I have my about. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my about. So I'll copy that. And the about is going to have a margin bottom. So in addition to our about, I'm also going to add in a rule here targeting the other item in the sidebar, which is the tip. And I'll set up the bottom margin there as being 10 pixels as well. And I also want to go ahead and jump back up here to our related and set the margin bottom for that as well. I'm going to go ahead and save that and then jump over into my HTML and find my tip. There's the tip of the week. So I'll go ahead and add in my div tag here and set my ID equal to tip, and then jump down to the bottom of the tip area and close out that div. There we go. I'll save that. And whenever I jump back into my browser and refresh, I should see the related area gain those margins, the about gain a margin at the bottom, same thing for tip of the week. Now that concludes this part of adding our margins to our project.